An obese 16-year-old was sold to Mountain Man as punishment by her father, but he had shocking plans. It was a cold, quiet morning in the mountains. Everything was still. The trees were covered in fog, and the old wooden cabin creaked in the wind. Elam Brewer, a quiet man who lived alone, stepped outside. His face showed years of pain. Long hair, rough beard, an old flannel shirt, and a bad knee that hurt every time it got cold. He had come here to forget the world, to be left alone. But today, something unexpected waited for him. Near his gate, lying on the ground, was a figure. At first, he thought it was an animal, but as he got closer, he saw it was a girl. 16, maybe, heavy set, wearing thin clothes that couldn't protect her from the cold. Her hands were tied in front of her with plastic zip ties. Her face looked empty, like she didn't expect help anymore. Pinned to her coat was a small note, nailed in with a rusty pin. It was written on the back of a grocery receipt. "She eats too much. Make her useful." Signed, M. Harlan. Elam remembered the name from a fuel receipt years ago at the local store. He didn't say anything. The girl didn't either. Just silence. The wind moved. A crow called from a tree. Elam slowly knelt in front of her. Not to rescue, not yet. He had stopped being a hero long ago, but he had seen that look in children's eyes before. In war zones, in refugee camps, in his nightmares. He quietly took out his pocket knife. The girl flinched. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he said. The first words he'd spoken in weeks. He cut the zip ties. Her wrists were red and scraped. Still, she didn't say a word. He stood. She just sat there. "You coming in? Or you want to freeze out here?" She didn't speak. But slowly she stood up. Together they walked into the cabin. No one said anything. Inside, the fire burned. But between them, something else had just started. Something silent, heavy, and not yet understood. Inside the cabin, the girl stood near the wood stove, not asking, not moving. She didn't take off her jacket. She didn't sit. Just stood there. Her eyes stuck to the wooden floor like she was afraid of taking up too much space. Elam watched her quietly. He poured her a cup of coffee, slid it toward her on the table. She didn't touch it. He noticed her fingers, red, cracked, probably from the cold and maybe from other things too. Her shoes were worn down, mud on the soles. Her face was pale, not from the cold, but from something deeper, like she'd been holding her breath for years. She didn't ask for help, didn't cry, didn't explain, and somehow, that made it worse. Elam walked to the window, stared out at the trees. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but the silence between them was loud enough to feel, and in that silence, memories started creeping in, ones he thought he'd buried. He remembered a boy once, young, hungry, Afghan, standing outside a blown-up clinic, clutching his little sister, saying nothing, even though his leg was bleeding. Elam had given him water, then walked away. Orders. He remembered a girl, too. Not from war, from home, his own sister. Heavy, quiet, always hiding food, hiding herself. Their father's voice echoing. "She's no good. Too soft, too big, too much." One day she just left. No goodbye. Elam never heard from her again. Now this girl stood here. The same silence, the same shame. He looked at the cabin door, thought about opening it, letting her go. She wasn't his problem. He didn't ask for this, but something in him wouldn't move. He knew what would happen if she went back down the mountain. She wouldn't last the night. Or worse, she'd go back to whoever sent her here, to that man who wrote that note. M. Harlan. A father? A monster? Elam scratched his beard, took a deep breath. The cabin wasn't big. Food was low. Winter was coming fast. But he had firewood. And something else too. Time. Time he didn't think he'd ever use for anything again. He turned back toward the girl. "You hungry?" She didn't answer, just barely nodded. He walked over, opened a can of beans, started heating it up. She slowly sat down, jacket still on, hands folded. They didn't speak for the rest of the morning. But something shifted. Not much. Just a small thread of something. Not trust, not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. Elam didn't know what would come next. He only knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going back. Not to him. Not to that life. not while he was still breathing. 3 days passed, and she still hadn't said her name. She would help a little, stack kindling, wipe the table, but never looked Elam in the eye. She slept on the old cot near the stove, rolled up like she was trying to disappear. She barely ate, always watching the door, the window, like she expected someone to come crashing in. Elam noticed. One night, while she was asleep, he went through the trash to look at that note again. Make her useful. He stared at the signature. M. Harlan. That name kept buzzing in his head. The next day, he took his old pickup and drove to the general store at the base of the mountain. He asked the storekeeper, an old man named Dale, if he remembered a man named Harlan. Dale's face stiffened. Mark Harlan? He said slowly. Yeah, that bastard's been around. Mean type. Lives down near the river curve. Used to sell logging gear, but now just drinks and gambles. Real bad temper. Word is, he owes money. A lot. Elam felt something dark twist in his chest. Dale looked up. Why are you asking about him? Elam lied. Just heard the name. He didn't tell Dale about the girl. Not yet. When he came back to the cabin, he saw it instantly. The front door was open. He ran inside, heart pounding. She was standing by the stove, wide-eyed, holding the fireplace poker like a weapon. Her hands were shaking. I thought you left, she whispered. Her first words. Elam froze. The way she said it, not just scared, but sure she'd been abandoned again, hit him hard. I just went to town, he said gently. Had to check something. She nodded, but didn't lower the poker. He put his hands up. You're safe here. Slowly, she set the metal rod down. That night, she finally told him. Her father had taken her to a bar. Not for a drink, but for a deal. He owed money to some men. A lot. Said she was too much to feed anyway. Called her a burden. Said someone up in the mountains might take her. Maybe for work. Maybe for worse. She didn't know the details. Just the look in his eyes when he walked away. Like she wasn't even a person anymore. Elam sat still, his jaw tight. That same father had nailed that note to her coat. She stared at the fire. They'll come. If I run, they'll find me. He knew she was right. If Harlan was in trouble with the wrong people, they might want her back, not out of love, but out of greed, or revenge, or silence. That night, Elam took the old rifle down from above the fireplace, cleaned it, loaded it. The next morning, fresh tracks were in the snow, leading toward the ridge. Someone had been watching. He didn't say a word to her, just bolted the doors, closed the blinds. She noticed, her voice low. It's starting, isn't it? Elam nodded. Yeah, and we'll be ready. Now it wasn't just about shelter. It was about protection. Whatever was coming, they'd face it together. After the footprints appeared in the snow, things changed between them. Not with words, but with quiet, steady actions. Elam started teaching her how to load the rifle. At first, her hands shook too much to even hold it right. But he didn't raise his voice, just placed her fingers gently, showed her how to breathe slow, aim steady. Focus on the tree trunk, he said, pointing. Don't think about what's behind it, just the shot. She missed every time that first day. But she stayed out there in the cold, trying again and again. Inside, they shared meals now. Nothing fancy. Beans, eggs, canned meat. But she started eating more, slowly, carefully, like she was learning it was okay not to hate herself for being hungry. One evening, she peeled potatoes at the sink while Elam fixed the broken shelf. She dropped one and apologized so fast it stunned him, like she expected to be hit for it. He didn't say anything, just picked it up and handed it back. Later, while she sat near the fire, he sat across from her, rubbing his old knee. She looked over. What happened to it? She asked. He hesitated, then answered, IED, Afghanistan. She nodded. My uncle was in Iraq. Came back. Different. Yeah, Elam said. We all do. That night, the power flickered. The wind howled outside like a warning, but inside, it was still. She reached out and placed one of her drawings, done in pencil on scrap paper, on the table near him. It was of the cabin, with the two of them standing in front, small, far away, but safe. You draw? He asked. She shrugged. Sometimes. I don't show people. He looked at it for a long time. It's good. A pause. You got a name? he asked. Lena. He nodded. I'm Elam. Just that. No handshake. No smile. But it meant something. One morning, as the snow started falling heavy, he handed her a small tin box. Inside was a compass. This belonged to my sister, he said. She left home when I was about your age. Took this with her. Found it in her things years later, after she passed. Lena didn't say anything, but she touched it like it mattered. That afternoon they sat on the porch, wrapped in thick blankets, watching the snow fall. No danger, not yet. Just silence. But not the empty kind. The kind that fills space with trust. For a moment, Lena leaned her head lightly on his shoulder. Elam didn't move. No one spoke. Nothing needed to be said. The mountain wind moved around them, but inside that stillness, something had settled. A small sense of belonging. Maybe not family. Not yet. But something that looked a little like it. It started with a truck engine in the distance, then 2 sets of tires crunching over snow and gravel. Lena was inside, sketching quietly. Elam looked out through the curtain. A black pickup and a silver SUV were parked near the tree line. 3 men stepped out. One of them wore a heavy leather coat, chewing a toothpick. Elam recognized him immediately. Mark Harlan. The other 2 looked like hired muscle. One had a bat. The other carried something worse. A gun. Elam didn't say a word to Lena, just moved to the shelf and took down the rifle. Lena, he said, calm but clear. Go to the back room. Don't come out unless I call. She stood slowly, the color draining from her face. Is it him? Elam nodded once. Lock the door behind you. She obeyed. Then he stepped outside. The wind was sharp. The snow had paused, but the sky was dark, heavy with more. Elam stood tall, rifle in hand but not raised. Mark Harlan stepped forward. Well, damn, he said, grinning. Thought I'd find her with some kind old lady. Didn't expect a mountain hermit. Elam didn't respond. Harlan looked around, then spit in the snow. I'm here for what's mine. You got no legal right to keep her. She's not yours, Elam said flatly. She's my daughter. You sold her. Mark's face twitched. I gave her a chance. You think you're better? Living out here? Hiding? You got no idea what kind of mess I'm in. Elam's eyes narrowed. I know enough. Enough to know she's not going with you. The man with the bat stepped forward. We don't need a debate. Just grab her and go. Elam raised the rifle. Try it. The standoff hung heavy in the frozen air. Then Harlan smiled. You think you're protecting her? You're just a delay. I already told the sheriff she was kidnapped. Said some old ex-military nut dragged her up here. She's underage. He's got the report. It won't be long before the law comes up this hill. That landed hard. Elam didn't flinch, but inside he felt the heat rise. He knew this land. Knew the sheriff too. An old drinking buddy of Harlan's. If they believed the wrong story, Lena would be taken, not saved. He had one choice. He took a step forward, gun steady. You come near this cabin again. I won't just aim to scare. Harlan's face shifted. A flicker of real fear. But then the third man, the one with the gun, moved fast, raising it toward the cabin. A shot rang out. But not from him. It came from inside. From Lena. Through the back window, she'd fired the old hunting rifle Elam gave her days ago. The bullet hit the snow inches from the gunman's feet. Silence. Elam turned his head. She was standing behind the broken glass, hands shaking, but eyes focused. I'm not going back, she shouted. Ever. The men stood frozen. Elam used the moment. Fired a warning shot of his own. This one closer. Go, he said. And this time, they did. The trucks spun in the snow and disappeared down the trail. Elam dropped to one knee, not from injury, just from everything hitting at once. Lena ran to him. I'm sorry, she whispered, crying now. I had to do something. He looked at her, proud and broken all at once. You did good. She'd saved them both. After the trucks vanished into the trees, silence returned to the mountain. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that lingers after something dangerous passes, like smoke after a fire. Lena stood by the broken window, the rifle slipping from her hands. She dropped to her knees, her breath shaky. Elam reached her, held her close. For a long time, neither spoke, just the sound of their breathing, the wind brushing past the cabin. Later, Elam boarded up the window, while Lena swept up the glass. Their movements were slow, like their bodies had just remembered they could fall apart. Neither of them said what they both knew. This wasn't over. If the sheriff really had a report, they had no time. The law could show up, or worse, Harlan could come back with a better plan. That night, Elam packed a small bag. Food, medicine, ammunition, the compass. Lena folded her drawings and placed them in her coat. They didn't cry. There was no dramatic goodbye to the cabin. Just small, quiet movements. When dawn came, they stood outside in the snow. The air was sharp. The sky was pale orange. Elam turned back once, looked at the cabin. The place he had used to hide from the world. The place that had just become something more. A shelter, yes, but also a graveyard for the life he used to live. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small photo, the only one he had of his sister. He placed it on the porch and weighed it down with a stone. Lena watched him but didn't ask. They walked down the trail slowly, not like people running, but like people leaving something behind. At the ridge, Lena stopped, looked back. Her cheeks were red, her hands in her coat pockets. "Do you think they'll come after us?" Elam looked at her, then at the long stretch of woods ahead. "They might," she nodded. "But we'll be okay." He didn't answer with words, just kept walking. She followed. The trees swallowed them slowly, two shadows moving through frost and fog. As they disappeared into the forest, snow began to fall again, soft, quiet, clean, and behind them, the cabin stood empty, but not forgotten. Months passed. Spring came slow to the northern hills. Snow melted, revealing dirt roads and wildflowers. Streams ran again. Trees stretched their arms to the sky. In a small town far from the mountain, a quiet house sat near the edge of a field. Not much. 2 rooms, crooked porch, a fence made from old barnwood. But it was safe. Inside, Lena was drawing again. Her sketch pad was filled. Forests, cabins, her face, Elam's hands. She had gained weight, but this time, not in shame, in peace. Her cheeks had color. Her laugh came easier now. Not often, but enough. She went to school some days, helped at the library, read books on law, said she wanted to understand how people got lost in the system and how to pull them out. Elam didn't say much about it, but he drove her every time. He built furniture in the shed, fixed things for neighbors. People asked questions, but never too many. They could see something tired in his eyes and something strong beside him. Sometimes they sat on the porch at dusk, watching the sky go orange and pink. They didn't talk much about the cabin, or the day the men came. But once Lena brought out the old compass, the one Elam had given her. She had carved her name on one side, and his on the other. "This still points north," she said, smiling. He just nodded. One morning, a letter arrived, from a county office upstate. Mark Harlan had been found dead, drunk, in a motel room. No one claimed the body. No one came to bury him. Lena read the letter once, then folded it and threw it in the fire. Elam watched her, but said nothing. They had survived him. That was enough. Weeks later, Lena placed something under the big tree in their yard, a small wooden box she carved herself. Inside was the last drawing from the mountain, the cabin, the 2 of them, standing still in the snow. She didn't tell Elam. She just buried it gently, like laying an old memory to rest. That night, as stars bloomed overhead, Lena sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket. "You think people like us ever really heal?" she asked. Elam looked up at the sky, took a long breath. "Maybe not," he said, "but we keep walking." She leaned against him, and in the stillness, the world didn't feel so loud. Not fixed, not perfect, but alive, and safe enough to stay.